What's up, y'all? I'm Will here with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, one of the highest rated hospitality podcasts in the world, brought to you by us at Schedulefly. We provide a very simple web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. If you're on pencil and paper or Excel, or you're on some software with tons of bells and whistles and features you don't need or use, Schedulefly is the perfect place for you. Easy to use, point, click, and go, and we'll take great care of you. Schedulefly.com, free trial, check it out. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, Pop Menu and The Giving Kitchen and Kickfin, and you're going to hear about them in just a minute. First of all, let's talk about today's guest. Hey, what's up, y'all? This is a cool episode with Mike Adolph from Doyle, HCM Human Capital Management. I love these guys at Doyle. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you've heard me talking about Doyle. It's a great group. We've really share so many things between the way they operate their business and the way we operate our business at Schedulefly, which means that we have built this really good partnership with them in a very short amount of time, and it's been a lot of fun. So I have a lot of respect for Mike Adolph. He is an entrepreneur who goes out and just rolls his sleeves up and gets in his car and drives and drives and drives. I think he spent 150 days on the road in the last year, tons of miles in his car meeting with customers. And it's really a cool story how their business came together. And they have a very clear sort of stay in your lane approach. And we think very highly of them. So if you're a listener to this podcast and you own a restaurant or you're a franchisee, you're going to really enjoy this and you're going to learn a lot too. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. More episodes coming soon. See ya. All right, y'all, check it out. Stick is our sponsor, connectwithstick.com. This is an incredible text and marketing tool. So check this out. Engage your customers, drive foot traffic, and increase sales at your bar, your restaurant, your store with Stick. Your targeted messages reach your audience instantly, promoting special offers and events. Look, 98% of texts are seen within 3 minutes. So this thing is simple and it's effective and it works. Elevate your marketing strategy and watch your customer base grow with the most direct way to connect with your customers through text. Start today and see results on the very first text. Stick is a better way to connect with your customers and the easiest way to increase your sales. www.connectwithstick.com. And again, that's www.connectwithstick.com. Folks, this is an awesome sponsor. It's an awesome business. We at Schedulefly know them well. We know that the results are there. This is a highly effective tool, and it's run by a business run by great people. Check them out, connectwithstick.com. What is up, y'all? Man, I'm really excited today because I got my buddy Mike Adolph here, and we've become friends, but we've only known each other for like a couple of months now. But he is a partner at Doyle HCM. We have developed a really great relationship with this group, and I am super thrilled to have the opportunity to have Mike be here from Columbus, Ohio, down here in Charlotte today in the studio. Mike, thanks for coming. Just take a minute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will. It does feel like we've known each other actually for years.
Yeah.
Background is came from big corporate right out of college, selling payroll. Did that, worked my way up there over 5 years, formed a big partnership with a big franchisor, figured out the ins and outs of what issues were had in the franchise system, and then decided to join Ryan Doyle, Heather Hamilton. We created Doyle HCM, and just went right after the franchise space. And you and I met along the pathways of the life cycle of the employee. Scheduling happens to be one of those pieces. So
Yep.
right place, right time. So
Well, there's a fun story behind how we got to meet and everything. So, but okay. So Doyle, I'm going to ask some dumb questions. Doyle HCM. I had to look up HCM. Well, like when I first heard about y'all, I was like, what does
Yeah.
HCM stand for?
It'll be a new buzzword here in 5 years for
Human capital
management. Yeah.
management. So what does that mean?
Like I mentioned earlier, the life cycle of the employee. So you'll hear it traditionally in the marketplace as everything from hiring to firing, right?
Yeah.
So it's the applicant tracking, recruiting function, onboarding, payroll, HR, Affordable Care Act, retirement, termination, whatever you would deem definitions of HRs, depending on the needs, obviously, and then scheduling fits in there too, as well. From the clocking in, clocking out, timekeeping piece as well.
Yep.
But that is considered human capital management.
Okay.
Buzzword.
So you all are, and you came from, like, do you want to say where you worked before? Is that?
Yeah, I came from a great company, Automatic Data Processing. Went there. I always dreamed of selling payroll since I was like 6 years old. I'm kidding. But I went there right out of college because they had a great sales program, and I always knew I wanted to be in sales. I did retail sales for Nordstrom, another great company, and then just stepped right into it. I was an intern, smiling and dialing, and then had a territory, and then worked through the CPA channel, and that's actually where I met Ryan Doyle, and just great experience.
So you and you played baseball in college.
Yep.
And then when did you work at Nordstrom while you were in college, or was that first job out of school? Or
So I played baseball for a couple years, D3 baseball at Otterbein, and then while I was playing, I worked at a franchisee Firehouse Subs. So that's where I really cut my teeth.
I've heard. Yes.
The franchisee gave me way too much responsibility as an 18, 19-year-old, but it was awesome because you learn everything about it, from inventory, hiring and firing, closing, opening, etc., training people. So it was great.
So you're 18, 19.
18, 19.
You had a franchisee that owned like what, multiple locations or something? And
I think he just had one. It was the first one in Ohio. And then before that, I worked for a pizza franchisee as well.
Okay.
So it was smaller, though. It wasn't as big as a Firehouse Subs. So.
Yeah. And then when did you work? You worked at Nordstrom.
Worked at Nordstrom right after the baseball gig. Had a good friend, actually, that I was visiting with down here that is new Donato's franchisee here in Charlotte.
Oh, the guy. Okay. Yeah, right.
And,
Cody, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, I kind of rode his coattails in the sales world even after it. Worked with him at Nordstrom, and then we had a business then called Beautiful Bottoms. As a heel sticker that fit any size shoe, any size heel, when Christian Louboutins were coming out. Then we just learned a lot off of each other, and we've been friends since. And
Gotcha. Okay. The reason I ask about Nordstrom is, like, I feel like they have this really great culture of just going above and beyond to take care of customers. Like,
they really
I don't shop at Nordstrom because I'm cheap, but my wife does, and I know I've been there, and I've, like, even I, who've been there very few times, have noticed there's just a difference when you go to a Nordstrom versus like most department store.
It's funny when you look back at stuff, and shoot, that was 13, 14 years ago when I first started working there, but it was really the foundation of a lot of what Doyle believes in, because they would lead with one rule, and that was just the customer's always right.
Yeah.
So that was, again, foundational for me to just take that and move into corporate America, where unfortunately the natures of a profit and loss statement in publicly traded companies, it's not as easy to say the customer's always right. So, but it was a great foundational.
Well, it's a great foundation for having that mentality, Mike. And then you've got, just putting the customer first. ADP, now they have a very well-known sales culture. I mean, that is a sales organization, like, no doubt about it. And so you were there, 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years.
Okay. And that's where you started learning about the interaction between payroll or the employee life cycle. And then you worked with franchisees, hospitality or restaurant franchisees, and started realizing there's things that we can't do or things we could do better. maybe if I was running my own business or part of my own business.
Yeah, and it's interesting, again, touching on a lot of the foundational pieces that got us to where we're at. My first territory was in a impoverished area where there was a lot of immigrant ran businesses, and they didn't understand simple things like payroll taxes.
Okay.
So in order to even have a conversation with them, you have to teach them, show them, tell them. And that was tremendous for my career because it forced me to learn the technical side of what
You
was
had to
going on
learn. Yes.
instead of just trying to hit my quota, right?
Right, right.
And then the other thing is I just happened to be born and raised in Ohio, but Ohio is very complicated from a payroll technicality and workers' comp and some of the HCM buzzword pieces, but it forces you to learn in order to teach people so you can sell.
So, yeah. Well, okay. So you've got this. Now, was it a territory? Were you outbound? Like, were you feet on the street?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were knocking on doors. Okay. Good. Yeah. This is adding
I
up a lot.
prefer to knock on doors. I wasn't the big smile and dialer. I mean, I'll do it, but
No, I'm the same. But this is all this is all leading to a lot of stuff I want to ask you about because so much of what I've just heard aligns. Like I'm starting to get Doyle. Like I mean, I already got Doyle and your culture. Now I understand the foundation.
yeah.
Okay, so this is where a lot. So okay, but
Well,
you're
and
there.
credit to Ryan Doyle because Ryan Doyle is doing the same thing as a CPA firm as I'm at ADP, and we just
And you guys just
cross
that's
paths.
what I was going to ask how y'all met because I spoke with when we went to that. Y'all were kind enough to invite me to a University of Georgia baseball game that y'all sponsored down in Athens, Georgia, a couple weeks ago, and I sat with your partner Heather, and we talked for a long time at that game, and I learned a lot about her background and working with Ryan, and then so that was, and she's amazing, by the way, and obviously fascinating. I really enjoy talking to her a lot. But give me a little bit more of the background of how, like, what they were doing, and then how you guys met, and how y'all now became partners in this business.
Ryan and Heather had a CPA firm that was doing personal business, taxes, some bookkeeping, and then they were forced to do payroll, which a lot of firms, if they're listening, or people that understand the payroll world, you're usually forced to do it
Okay.
from a partner standpoint, or you've been reluctant to get out to not do anything else beyond the scheduling side. But a lot of people just say, fine, I'll just do the payroll.
Okay.
So Ryan and Heather did that. And a lot of their clients were clients that I'd ran into in my first territory. So that's how we first met. And I've always been a believer in doing the right thing. So if they didn't fit for corporate, or if there was issues that they didn't understand and they needed more hand-holding, Ryan and Heather would be a better fit for them.
Gotcha.
So,
you were doing that at ADP.
Yeah, and I would say that it was when you're moving through corporate, I mean, you're not there to service the client. There's a whole model, a service center, like that's how they are. But unfortunately, back to my Nordstrom days, I'm like, oh, I want to help them. I wanted to hold their hand. And
Dude.
yeah,
Amen. Yep. Okay.
And I realized Ryan and Heather were a great bridge for that.
Yeah.
And this was in 2013, 2012. And then fast forward 3-4 years, all those clients had grown, needed things HR wise. And then the Affordable Care Act came out, and that was in 2016 where it really ramped up. And it was just a big knowledge gap for anybody that was doing anything in the HCM world, unless you're an ADP or a big provider, right? And they were just like, what are we going to do? And I'm moving up, and I'm like, well, I love what I'm doing right now. This is nice. And right place, right time. I just decided to make the jump 2018 when kind of stuff turned over, and I felt like it would have been a clean break for me to make the move. And we formed it, jumped right in, and now here we are. Lots
Okay.
happened between there.
Yeah, no. Well, see, when I came to Columbus, and we'll get to that too, because I want to tell the backstory about how we got connected, but you got on a whiteboard and you were explaining to me some of the details about the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, and scheduling. And I was like, I had no freaking clue. Like, I don't know anything about that. Nothing. Like, I mean, I hope our customers do. Like, but they probably have an accountant or they have a firm that helps. Like, I didn't know anything about that. And it was weird to me. I'm like, well, that's healthcare. Like, what does this have to do with, but it's a broad, uh, plan. So you don't have to get into tons of detail, but just like, how does that all connect with, like, how did that throw? So the ACA comes out, the Affordable Care Act, and all of a sudden you're doing, you're Ryan and you're Heather and you're doing your thing and you got payroll going, even though and then like this throws everybody off and you started realizing issues that were in there. Tell me about that. Because I still don't fully understand what you told me in Columbus.
So the ACA says that you as an employer, applicable large employer, ALE, the buzzword.
What does that mean? How large
you are deemed over 50 full-time equivalents that you have.
Got it.
And a full-time equivalent, I do this this little timeline all the time. Look at it on a timeline of either 12 or 18 months. Traditionally, W-2 job, I know you're not that familiar with that anymore, but traditional W-2s, you get offered benefits at hire 30 days or 90 days post-hire, right? It's simple. But when you're in the franchise space or variable hour tracking, they call it, your ability to be deemed a full-time equivalent becomes difficult. And there's multiple reasons why, but in its simplicity, it's looked at on a time of 12 or 18 months. When that employee starts, they have to go up and down, and their average time worked has to be over 30 hours, and that's considered a full-time equivalent. So if you have 50 or more of those, you have to offer health care 12 months after you cross the line.
All right. 50 employees that average over 30 hours a week over a 12-month or an 18-month period. So once you do that and you cross that line, you have a year, and then you got to start offering health care to anybody that would be a full-time equivalent, 30 or more hours. Okay. Which makes...
You have to file an annual form, too, at the end of the year called a 1095-C that is you as an individual. So I said Affordable Care Act, you had to offer coverage as an employer of 50 full-time equivalents, but you also have to make sure it's affordable.
Okay.
So it has to meet a minimum standard of the percentage of their gross wages, and that's what the 1095-C tells the employee in the IRS. That the employer was complying with that. So that becomes even more complicated to do when you have, back to the timeline of variable hour tracking, a franchise employee that's going off to school for a little bit, or doing this, doing that, and then coming back, right?
Okay.
Or you have 4 concepts, 6 EINs, 8 states, 10 employees that go between 5-6 locations. It's just, it really truly does take service. So
what a mess. And then how do employees know? I mean, if you're an employee, like you get some 1090, like how do you, I mean, do they?
There was a push previous to the Biden administration coming to power. Trump put in an order that basically allowed the employee to not be penalized if they were to go to the exchange, if they were to not have health care offered and they went on their 1040 personal tax return, went to put in the form, and you didn't have the form or you didn't have health care, you were penalized as an individual. That went away. And now the employee really, I mean, that's another thing why it's so important for us from a service standpoint, because you think about the dynamic of a franchise employee. You really need it when you know you need it, or you have a family, or you're looking to get a family, or you're thinking long term. Well, when you cross from 26, you have to come off your parents' plan. So there's all these little intricacies that is confusing for the employee, especially in the franchise space.
Yeah.
To where that's where it's not like you're getting money back on your tax return. I'll say that. So it's not as scrutinized, right, from a employee perspective, but it's more so how am I covered? What's my network? Do I have to have health care right now?
Is this is the IRS auditing all this stuff? Like how do employers get fined and have? I mean,
Yeah,
I would
we.
imagine there's all kinds of issues with compliance with this stuff. It's just
So I would say that we were a little early on that because when I was at the old place, I was thinking, well, if this stuff were to not work or someone didn't understand what they had it from a tech perspective or something didn't work from
yeah,
an integration standpoint, something goes south, who's going to help them? So I always had this in the back of my head of the IRS has to come knocking one day. Well, 2019 was a big light bulb moment. We had a franchisee get an $800,000 fine, and that was like, oh wow, they're coming.
800,000.
Yeah, and then since then, every year it's ramped up more and more. This year alone,
So
let's see, it's May 20th. We've seen probably 15 fines
15 fines from
this year alone.
people
for-
that you all serve.
No, it could be people that we serve. It could be people in our network that are confused by what the IRS is looking for because the IRS will send a phishing letter basically questioning, hey, we don't know what's going on. We didn't get this. And all they're doing is looking at your W-3, which is the sum of your W-2s, and saying, well, we think the fine should be this. So then we'll take that, prove otherwise. And if you don't respond to the initial letter, you'll get what's called a 226J, which is a huge penalty that'll just freak you out and make you want to call everybody. But usually it starts with, there's kind of three stakeholders. It starts usually with HR, the CFO, and then it gets to the legal side, it gets to the CPA side, and then it gets to the broker side. And everybody kind of finger points to till somebody says, I think it was this fault. But that's where we step in and have a proven process of hopefully mitigating the fine and then ideally training, coaching, showing them on how to do it the right way going forward for variable hour tracking.
What happened with the $800,000? Do they have to pay it, or do they?
No, we were able to get it mitigated. A lot of the instances of the fines are confusion, to be honest. And
Yeah.
just lack of data being in the right spot or data positioned the wrong way. So,
Man, I tell you, I can't even imagine as a business and dealing with all that stuff. And you see, well, first of all, I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, do franchisees, franchisees, are they incented to keep people below 30 hours so they don't have to?
now you're getting technical.
I mean, like,
There's not really a way to disincentivize an employer to have them work less, if that makes sense. Because the
Yeah.
way the IRS looks at it is, if you want to do that, they're just going to look at your total hours and divide it by 30, which is deemed full-time equivalent. And whatever that comes out with at the end of the month, that's your full-time equivalent number.
okay.
So if you have a bunch of part-timers, let's say you have 120 part-timers,
And they're all working.
you could still be 62 full-time equivalents, and they're all part-time.
Really? Okay. Okay. So there's just no way around it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's no way around that. And again, that doesn't mean that certain people need offered because they could not be working full time. It just says, hey, you're an applicable large employer, so you have to start doing filings and tracking and letting us know.
Okay. Now, so y'all, I mean, literally, we probably have known each other for 2 months, Mike. The reason we know each other is because you've got this awesome young man, Wesley Knapp, who lives in Raleigh. He's one of your sales guys.
We have a great sales team.
You have a great sales team.
Incredible.
And Wesley is, he's friends with a guy named Cole Teal, and Cole works for Vertical IQ, and I'm an investor in Vertical IQ. We're a customer of Vertical IQ at ScheduleFly. And I know those guys really well. And I guess Wesley was talking to Cole and heard about what we do or something like that, right? So he calls. Cole's like, hey, I got my friend Wesley, works for a payroll company. He wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. And so
Another one.
well, it's like we just, yeah. I mean, there's 1,000 pay. I was like, I've never heard of Doyle. I don't, but sure, he's your friend. Like, I'll talk to him, sure. And so we had like an initial conversation, like a real quick, like, hey, I'm in Raleigh, could I come to Charlotte, or, next time you're here, could we have coffee? Like, I'll come there. I'm like, no, you don't, like, I'll come, like, I'll let you know next time I'm in town. And then I think I didn't, like, not deliberately, just forgot or something, because I'm up there a decent amount. But he would like email and call, very professional, never pushy. And so I'm like, okay, like, he's going to keep trying to get in touch with me until I meet. So I'll have coffee with him and I'll let him down easily. Like, that was my plan. And Cole and Wesley and I sat in a coffee shop in Cary outside of Raleigh one morning. And Wesley starts telling me about you all and what you do. And I literally thought, I was like, I'm going to give this guy 10 or 15 minutes and be like, look, man, I don't know about the payroll thing. We kind of have other, and I was like, man, I really like this guy. And I like their style. And he's talking a lot about personal service and, building relationships and long-term relationship building and getting their name out there, not closing sales, versus just getting indoors. And they know that, eventually probably the big guys will probably make a mistake at some point. Now Doyle is there. And, he came from, I think, Paychecks, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so an example of that, like, he's like, he was there, and like, something's going to happen. And, if you're a small business or you're a franchisee, you got 1, 3, 5, 10, whatever locations, like, you're kind of a blip on the radar for somebody like Paychecks. They're not going to bend over backwards. It's the same thing with ADP. I worked at Bank of America. I'll have a story I'll tell about that. Same deal. Great bank, whatever, but like, different mentality than, like, there's a reason community banks exist, right? So y'all are like a community bank. We're sort of the same thing in our space. Like, and so anyway, he's like, I'm like, okay. And he starts telling me about, he's like, man, I want you to talk to this guy, Mike Adolph, and he's just amazing, and, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'll be happy to talk to him. So Wesley leaves, and then I'm hanging out with Cole, and we're talking about vertical IQ, and I saw a missed call, and Cole and I get done, and I get the voicemail, and it's from you, and I'm like, okay. And you're like, hey, I'm driving today. I'll be on the road. And I was literally leaving to come back to Charlotte, which is like 3 hours. I was like, okay, I'll call him. And I think you and I talked for like, I don't know, an hour and a half or 2 hours or something the first time.
It was like 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, you were like going and you got gas, and you were like going, like, I mean, like, we were both just,
it was in my second home, Athens, and I was driving somewhere south. I remember,
Yeah. So, and what really resonated, what I liked so much, I mean, just y'all reminded me so much of what we're trying to do, which is, you take this technology or this service, and you provide it to a customer, and then you almost, in today's time, I feel like you just overdo it or overwhelm them with service, where it's like, we're just doing what we would do,
Right.
like the way you should treat a customer, and the relationship that you should build, and the sales cycle you should have, which is not like high pressure. I want to close this deal right now so I can move to the next one. It's like, hey man, like, we're here, we love you, and anything we can ever do. And then you just go, and then eventually they're going to be like, oh, remember those guys? Like, now, pick your favorite big payroll company, let's call the Doyle guys. Like, I like them. And that's so much aligned with the way we try to treat our customers, which is just, you're not just a number. You're not part of a, just you matter. Like, we care that we serve you. So we want to serve you, and we want to get your business, and then we want to keep your business and build a relationship with you. And we want you to trust us, and we want you to, when you call, you get somebody, when you email, you get a response, you matter. Like, in big companies nowadays, more often than not, like, you feel like you don't matter at all, like, at all, right? And that's why companies like yours and ours and, other small companies exist, because there's a lot of people out there. Like, even if, like, with Schedulefly, I can say this for sure. Like, like, it's a basic, simple thing. Like, we don't do all these integrations. We don't do all this stuff. There's people that might even kind of need that because they've got 20 restaurants and $50 million a year in revenue. But they're like, you know what? I don't care. Like, they take good care of me. And guess what? When something goes awry, I got a guy I can call. And, like, people like going, I got a guy I can call. And you lose that in these big companies. I've been going on this long rant, but, like, that brings us to what made me so attracted to y'all. And I had that conversation, and then I'm like, I got to go meet these guys. So I drove up to Columbus, hung out with you guys for 2 days. And now, Mike, here we are. Your company and our company are like, there's so much quote partnership, there's all these partnerships. This is the first time and I love all of our other partners, and I'm not saying anything, but it's like the first time where I really feel like there's this mutual, like, let's help each other, because by doing that, what we're really doing is we're helping customers, right? Like, we're trying to make things better for customers, and we love customers and y'all love customers. And if we can help each other out, it's like makes their business better. And there's this alignment of philosophies and culture and the way we treat customers. It's just unlike anything I've seen. So I'm super thrilled to have this opportunity to just hang with you and learn more about what y'all are doing.
No, I appreciate it, and credit again to Heather Hamilton. And we did an operating system. Those that are listening probably are familiar with Entrepreneur Operating System. We did it about 3 years ago and really just dove all in on it. And that's really, I can credit the sales guys, but I always tell them their job's so easy because our service is so good. And it's all just Heather just leaning hard into EOS and making sure it's scaling the right way, and service maintains as you continue to grow, because it was easy to deliver the service part when you're 15, 20 employees, but when you get over 100, 110 employees, it's all about numbers and metrics and accountability, and that's what we're just so grateful for. Entrepreneur Operating System. You'll read the book here soon, but it's been tremendous on our ability to scale. And then we did an acquisition that was super successful, and that was a key component of it as well.
All right, y'all, check it out. Stick is our sponsor, connectwithstick.com. This is an incredible text and marketing tool. So check this out. Engage your customers, drive foot traffic, and increase sales at your bar, your restaurant, your store with Stick. Your targeted messages reach your audience instantly, promoting special offers and events. Look, 98% of texts are seen within 3 minutes. So this thing is simple, and it's effective, and it works. Elevate your marketing strategy and watch your customer base grow with the most direct way to connect with your customers through text. Start today and see results on the very first text. Stick is a better way to connect with your customers and the easiest way to increase your sales. www.connectwithstick.com. And again, that's www.connectwithstick.com. Folks, this is an awesome sponsor. It's an awesome business. We at ScheduleFly know them well. We know that the results are there. This is a highly effective tool, and it's run by a business run by great people. Check them out, connectwithstick.com. So I want to get into that, because when I came to Columbus, one of the first things you did is you pulled out a copy of EOS, Enterprise Operating System. You said, you got to read this. This is how we run our business.
Yeah, Entrepreneur Operating System. Yep.
And Entrepreneur Operating System. And so as you saw today, it's sitting there. It's primed to be read. I have not read it yet. I will. I promise.
Dust it off.
But tell me sort of a high level of what that's all about. Because you've got like 100 and change employees now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not.
I like telling stories, and you just mentioned that you never felt the partnership, the just warm, fuzzy feeling, and that's all just core values. So when you first start EOS, this is going to turn into an EOS.
Let's do it, man. I mean, look, it's clearly an important part of your business.
When you first start EOS, you build a 1, 3, 10-year plan, and there's a curriculum of reading materials that are awesome as part of it. Because, I mean, the whole premise is I've never been an executive. None of us have never been an executive at this stature where we're at right now, and it's almost like Ryan always jokes, it's like a business religion. It's there for you to lean on and there for your kind of like core. But it is true, because when you first start, as I mentioned, you do the 1, 3, 10-year goal. You come up with your core values. You come up with everything that's needed to get to the 1, 3, 10-year goal. And it's called a Vision Traction Organizer Day. So that just is like foundational to everything. And you do that on the top level from a leadership standpoint and just permeates downwards into your organization departmentally. So, and then again, it's just you retouch on it quarterly, you retouch on it annually, you rehash everything so everybody's just on the same page and everybody has traction is the premises of it. So when you're doing stuff like we're doing with all these balls in the air, it is just, there's no way we would ever be able to deliver the service that we still deliver while we scale or go into other markets that we've done and or do the acquisition. So
tell me about the acquisition y'all did.
So we purchased an asset off of Goldman Sachs that was I think it was one of their first franchise investments. They invested into Zaxby's, or actually pretty sure they bought it outright, but one of the 3 assets was a back office function that did payroll, accounting, HR, light Affordable Care Act tracking. It was right place, right time. Had a really good friend that had found the opportunity for us. We closed the transaction December. Heather and team had to move 40,000 checks in 3 weeks. So that was crazy to watch that happen. And again,
had to move 40,000 checks in 3 weeks.
Yeah, because when the transaction went down, we had to make sure everybody got paid for January. And that's goal number 1. We always want the employee to feel like their money is important to them, whether it's $30 or $5,000. So we wanted to make sure everybody got paid during the transaction. So we had to migrate everybody onto our technology in 3 weeks. And we had barely any mistakes, which was crazy. And then really took about 3 to 6 months just to let everything kind of iron out. And then there was an accounting function as part of it as well that Ryan and Heather had been in accounting, but it wasn't specific to the niche that we're in. And this was just a prime opportunity for us. So we really stepped back and looked at ways to leverage the accounting piece and put it into a lot of our clients from the HCM side. So me and sales manager who you met, Andrew, hit the road and probably in the past 18 months drove about 140,000 miles, just met as many people as possible that we were now partners of. So it was awesome. Met in the system of Zaxby's is just incredible. Shout out to the franchisees because they're like all just great guys, good old boys. We get along. I mean, even the ladies involved just beat you up and we have a great time. It's just an awesome system. So we met a ton of those people on the road and again, just continue to grow it because they would only focus on one lane, the Zaxby's world. And there was a lot of franchisees that needed help in other areas, whether they had McAllister's Deli or a Marco's Pizza or whatever it was. There was other services we could provide to them. So we did that and fell in love with Athens, Georgia during this time as well.
Yeah. Easy to do.
Pretty much lived there the past 2 years and still kind of do. But it is a tremendous opportunity with Zaxby's is now moving to Atlanta. So there's just amazing talent, amazing people there.
Zaxby's is moving to Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay.
The corporate side is, and there's just amazing people that we've capitalized on that have joined our organization. We've planted a flag in Athens and want to continue to grow it there. And it's just huge opportunity to make an impact on the city there. So,
okay. So how many Zaxby's franchisees are there?
There's probably around 1,000 now.
Okay, so when you said 40,000, just 40,000 employees that worked across there.
Yeah, and it's not like paid employees because remember, turnover in the restaurant franchise space is around 150, 200% sometimes. So it's really, truly, it was probably like 10,000 people that we were paying.
Okay.
But just a lot of W-2s you have to move over and make sure they're done right for that year.
So you and Andrew Grunder went and met, like you just got on the road and went and see, this is what I love. Like y'all went and met the franchisees face to face, eye to eye. Okay. I love that so much. Now you've got this, y'all did this past December?
No,
Or was
this
it
was
December of
December 2022.
2022?
So
Okay, so
we're
you're
coming
okay. That's
into
why
the
you said
second year
18
of it.
months.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, a lot of franchisees now. So they got their Zaxby's, and then they're diversifying, not putting all their eggs in one basket, and they start investing in the other franchise organizations. And so that's where this is. See, I didn't even really I get this a lot more because y'all have so many relationships with so many people across so many brands.
Yeah. Well, and it's during the scaling phase the past 2 years because it was really only 3 or 4 of us reps, and
You, Andrew Grunder.
me, Andrew, Mike Gray, and then Ryan Jeeves. We were that was at the beginning of Zaxby's, and then since then we've doubled the sales side and have more of a focus of just working with the franchisor, especially at the corporate level, because the big issue, the macro issue right now is not HCM and payroll, which is really interesting to me because I've just been pigeonholed that way for almost 12 years now. It's truly accounting. It's getting profit and loss statements on time. And it's, again, I touch on the macro side. It's just there's not enough accountants in the world right now. And there's a huge issue with people retiring and not enough backfill. So there's just so many franchises that are out of compliance. They're late on their financials. Doesn't look the right way. And during a downturn of sales that we've had the past year, it becomes more and more important for the franchisor to be able to measure what matters, right? And if the P&L is late and people are 6 months, or if it's, well, this isn't the way that we did it before, why do I have to do it this way? It causes issues. So we've really struck a niche of working with the franchisor and making sure that their accounting standards are understood from our team, the IT side, the accountants that we have that are amazing talents with. I mean, the talent that we have is so rich. It's decades and decades of franchise experience. So we like going to the franchisor, aligning with what their needs are, making sure that we can achieve it before we even have a conversation with the franchisee. And that's really hit home.
So
And if they need payroll, if they need HR and ACA, or they're looking to scale, like, we're there for them. But a lot of the conversation's been led from an accounting standpoint, which again has been bamboozling to me. But
well, okay, yeah, this surprises me. I didn't realize this. You and I haven't. I don't think we've talked about this yet. I mean, first of all, dude, I took accounting 101, all right, in college. It's the only class I took pass fail, and I actually told this story. I was speaking at Davidson last week and to their entrepreneur center, and I was like, y'all are welcome to laugh at me for this, but this is a true story. I took accounting pass fail, and I was so bored by it that I like looked up the number of classes that you could miss, like the maximum number, and still get credit for having taken the class. So I hit that maximum. I spread them out. I think I got to miss like one a week or whatever, 1.5 a week on average. And then I took it pass fail. And I was really surprised that I passed because I got.
hopefully your kids don't listen to this.
Oh no, it's okay. It's all good. Like they know, like that's just not my jam. And I still to this day, I mean, once or twice a year, I will have a dream that I'm walking. I've got my cap and gown on, and I'm in line, and I'm at Davidson, and it's the same graduation thing, and my family's there, and they call my name. They're like, "Oh, sorry, you you failed accounting. You got to stay another year." Like I still, so this is, I mean, dude, like that's just so far out of my my wheelhouse. I have to say, I'm super surprised to hear you say there's not enough accountants. But it does make sense if people are retiring. But then this starts to get into the question of like, how does AI come in and backfill some of this stuff? And where does that, I mean, I have to ask that, right? Like,
fit the buzzword in.
Sure.
There will be an opportunity for AI. Actually, there is one now, but I mean, there's multiple vendors out there like a Loop AI Shout out to them. They've done a great job with crushing the third-party delivery stuff. But is any AI replacement scenario, there has to be the human element because of the dynamics of what's going on. And when you're talking franchise, there's so many dynamics, especially when you get over 3-4 locations. I mean, the franchisor could change SKU, could change a discount percentage and how they do. I mean, there's just a litany of things. Or third-party delivery fees change, or they add a tech fee, like you name it.
Yeah.
So the dynamic to it is where AI is going to struggle unless, and that's what they always say, it'll just turn into people being prompters, where when there is a change, you just have to update the change. So
yeah.
That's where it could go eventually, but we've been hearing AI is going to replace accountants for 7-8 years now. So,
well, I'm glad. I figured that was the case. I mean, I remember when they said that, I'm old enough to remember when they started putting ATM machines, and they're like, well, then there'll be no more tellers. And go to any bank today and there's tellers. And in fact, then they were like, well, you're not even going to need branches anymore because all banking can be done online. The biggest bank in the world, Chase, is building branches like left and right. So you never know about this stuff. The people tend to overthink.
Well, it's impact with human nature. It's a pendulum. Go this way and back.
So I need to ask you about the franchise. So you go to a franchisor, and you were mentioning P&Ls, and so if I'm a franchisor, and let's say I've got 1,000 franchisees.
Yep.
I need them to tell me about the problems that are created.
Well,
like what's the gap that you're filling for a franchisor that has a problem?
The way we see it is there's kind of 3 buckets of brands. So you've got the emerging brands that are chasing to get to 100, 200, 300. You've got the established brands that are probably chasing 1,000 or just over 1,000. And then you got the legacy brands that are thousands, tens of thousands. All have different buckets of needs, right? Because all have different standards of franchisees, how they handle stuff.
Yeah.
The established brands have a very intense revenue management system that requires all these features and functions. And the emerging brands, like, I'm trying to find a technology like that. Where do I find that? So it's, again, back to the human side and the service side. It takes the slowing it down, understanding their needs, making sure we can achieve their needs from the IT and the sheer manpower side, and then moving forward with bringing on franchisees on.
Okay.
So, and again, that's only accounting, and accounting's kind of like HR. You throw that at somebody and they're like, well, what do you mean, right? Is it tax or is it bookkeeping? We truly just do the bookkeeping, the P&L that's due post-month close, whatever the standard is, accounts payable. And again, that function can change depending on the size of the franchisee, the brand, the vendors, etc. And then obviously sales tax guidance too and filing.
What's the ideal customer for y'all? Like if you were like the perfect customer, the size,
So I'm going to bring up a customer last week that I've never had this happen in my career, where they were merging with another group, and the other group wanted to take a look at other vendors. In the army of people at our client, they did not want that to happen because we had taken them from 5 or 6 locations to 25 locations in the past 3 years. Was like inspiring. It almost made me tear up because I was like, I can't believe they love our service and product so much that they're willing to be like, no, we're gonna fight all these people that we've never met and make it like sandpaper because we love this so much. Even one of the COO told me, he's like, we don't do this with vendors. So that was like,
it's a rare thing, bro.
Yeah, that was cool to see. But I would say that is our target client, like a customer going from one location to, I'd say around 50 to 100, depending on the AUV, is where we start to bow out, because that's where you should start looking at a controller, a CFO, potentially going in-house and we're completely fine with that. That's like a win. It's like somebody growing up, and it's like, wow, they got there, right? And that's where our niche is. It's anywhere from 0 to 50 to 75 million in revenue as a franchise or restaurant. I mean, you do a lot of independent restaurants.
Yep.
We make a big impact on those, especially from the HCM side. But the accounting is just difficult to come up with a standard of processes that can become more efficient for a mom and pop restaurant. That's why we stay in the franchise space with accounting.
Okay. With accounting.
Yeah, because there's a standard that the franchisor expects.
But with other, like payroll and some of the other services.
Payroll, it's crapshoot because that's very dynamic as it is, right?
Yeah.
A P&L is a P&L. I mean, GAAP accounting is GAAP accounting.
Yeah. Then you specifically, Mike, I'm thinking you're spending a lot of time.
Or ours are non-GAAP. I should go back because we don't. The CPA makes it GAAP. Our financials. Sorry.
Dude, you're speaking Chinese to me right now.
It was a couple classes past where you stopped.
So you're spending time building relationships with franchisors, and when you find, and that could be top down or it could be bottom up because you've got somebody that's got Zaxby's and they have some other ones, and then you service them and you get connected. But like
again, it changes. Remember the 3 buckets.
Yeah, right. Depending on
the established brands, it's usually the big 3, big 4 franchisees in the system.
Okay.
And when you start moving across the timeline, it becomes into a franchise association, right?
Yep. Okay.
So,
all right. That's what we're working on with Bojangles right now. We just joined that. Yeah. Okay. And then you've got these how many people on the sales team?
We have 8.
Okay. And you all recently divided up. Each of them has like X number of brands.
Yeah. So we're doing it a non-traditional way of corporate America because we so can right now. We want our sales team to just get to know the brand, go all in on the brand. So we look at brands from a total addressable market standpoint. We look at the AUV, how many locations. We do take geography into account too because we can't all fly to the West Coast all the time. But that's how we determine which rep has which brand. And then there's a cutoff and there's an opportunity to find other brands, but there's got to be ways that you prove it or find it. And a lot of times it's somebody in their brand has a franchise with another brand that no one's called for.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I love the idea that you just expressed because we share this is if like people grow into Schedule Fly. I mean, we've been doing this 17 years. Like we see people go from one location to 3 to 5 to 10 to 12. They grow into us, and then sometimes they outgrow us, right? Like they want the data flow of live point of sale integration, or they want whatever it is, and they get to a point where we say, hey man, we still love you, and we wish. I mean, I stay in touch with customers that have outgrown us. Like I built relationships with them.
I do too.
I've introduced you all to because I believe in the relationship. It's not, to me, this is not a transactional thing. It's like if they need more than what we want to provide, cool. Like there's lots of other companies and that's great. What they also do, and I'm sure y'all are in the same boat, is, you take a customer that outgrew us or whatever, that's probably somebody that's pretty influential within their sphere, within their city or town, or within their restaurant peer network. And when somebody that maybe even used to work for them is coming in and going, I'm starting a restaurant, what do you think I should do for this, that, or the other? They're always, I mean, this happens all the time. Yeah. They're like, oh, well, you don't need all that. Like, you should just use Schedule Fly. It's perfect. Like, We get that all the freaking time.
Yeah.
So, it's good to be in that place where you're not like worried that, okay, well, if that people outgrow, that's fine, because every day, guess what? Somebody's hanging their shingle on the door and they're starting their first place.
Yep.
And they're going to grow and like, so you've got this, like, you're in your lane, you know who your perfect target is, and you got a huge addressable market. It's just a matter of finding, like, how do we get to those people and share our value proposition and build a relationship. And then that starts to compound over time, because the big company messes up and there you are. And then, so.
Yep.
Love
Franchises most of the time are always growing, and a lot of franchisees are mostly movers and shakers too, which is awesome.
Franchisees are mostly movers and shakers. Yeah.
Or restaurateurs.
Yep.
So,
how are we doing? Let's see here. I want to see. Sometimes I run long. Okay, so we're good. We still got a little bit more. What have we not talked about today that we should talk about? Oh, there's one thing I want to tell you. I mentioned Heather earlier. When we were at that game, she had just, like, I think that day she got a puppy.
Yeah.
And what did she? Do you know what she named the puppy?
Not what I wanted. I wanted to name her Georgia, naturally, because that's where we found her. To be honest, she just changed it again. I don't know what it is. It might be a confused puppy for a little while, but yeah, we're big dog folks. Any given day in our office, there's probably a dog or two running around one of the two offices.
Yeah.
And myself rescued a few.
Yeah.
My wife.
Yeah.
We both are massive dog people.
You take your dogs on the road sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
What do you do? You get like an Airbnb?
Yeah, Airbnbs are probably the best scenario.
So you can go, like, you'll go find one that's dog friendly, go get them settled in.
Yeah.
Go to your meetings, dogs hang out.
There's a lot of great Airbnbs out there for dogs. And it's funny, again, like the core value thing. If people have it a dog friendly, they're usually pretty cool, pretty open, fun. So you meet people that way. And there's great Airbnbs.
Yeah, you've kind of inspired. Like, I think I'm going to change the way
I got my dad on it now too. He didn't realize that it's like actually a thing, and then I showed him. I'm like, no, you can get a pool and you can get a fenced in yard and whatever you want.
I literally, like, you met Oslo today. Like, I want to take that dude with me on the road. Like, he's a good car dog and he likes to hang around with me. And Elvis he gets a little anxious on the road now. He's a little old. Lola, no freaking way I'd take that dog out there. But I wanted to ask about Heather and her puppy, because it was really cool. She moved down there.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's a big deal. She had been in Columbus like most of her life.
Yeah, she's from a small town called Kenton, Ohio.
Okay.
With a K. Moved to Columbus. She's been there, I think, 30, 40 years, but uprooted her whole life. Went down to, we all really uprooted our lives for all of this. They say when you start a business, it takes everything and then more, and it was truly that. And credit to even my wife, Nicole, it's hard being gone 150, 200 days.
You're gone a lot. Yeah.
And you miss a lot of stuff, and you see, social media hasn't helped that, but you see all this stuff and you're like, wow, this is tough, but you just got to do it. And credit to Heather too. She just jumped all in and did it, and feet first. And it took, because remember, a lot of the folks that joined Doyle had been set in their ways for 20, 30 years. And a lot of them knew more than us on what we were doing, right? So it took a little bit of, here's our culture, here's your culture, how do we meet in the middle? And the only way you do that is spending true face-to-face time. You're not going to do that virtually. You're not going to do that on a town hall event, right? Like, it takes taking people to lunch, happy hour, going to the office, showing up, being present. So that's what she did, and kudos to her, because it took a lot.
It's a huge commitment. And
she's a grandmother. There's a lot that she's missed. And
it's a big, big commitment. No, I was really impressed that she made that commitment. And I just thought that dog was so freaking cute. So I was curious. Well, she's amazing. And your whole team has had so much fun hanging out down there. putting some dudes through a workout. You and I did a workout this morning.
I did.
You know, like y'all have
tough.
a good group of athletic folks that like to get after it. I want to ask you. So, you've got how. I forgot to ask this earlier, but about EOS, you have a 1, 3, and 10. When did y'all start? Like, how far along are you in that process?
That's a good question. We started in the fall of 2021, late summer, fall.
So you're now on year. I mean, you're at your 3-year.
We're hitting into our finishing our 3rd year.
Okay.
And it's awkward because the timing of it all, because you kind of want to look at everything on a calendar year, right? When you set all this up, but when you do your annual review where you look back on your 3-year goal and you start seeing all the things you check off, and then the numbers that you set, whether it's top line or margin, and you've blown those out of the water, and then it's a good moment because as an entrepreneur, it's difficult to look back and celebrate things because you're in it all the time.
Right.
And when you do that, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is really rewarding, and look what we accomplished so far. And gives you a sense of you can really do anything in America and in capitalism.
Oh, amen, man. That is for sure. I mean, look, y'all have built something really special. Your commitment to me is the biggest. Well, I can't remember which one of the guys told me this when we were down in Athens, but they said that you're known for just saying, just show up.
Yeah.
Like what's cool is what I admire, Mike, is you do this yourself. You're not telling people to do it. Like sitting in, go, like you lead by example, and Tilly leads by Michael Tilly and Andrew, like y'all lead by example. And so it's kind of hard for anybody else not to fight. Like,
yeah, now
you guys are doing it like,
you can't just sit behind the phone or schedule a bunch of teams and hopefully you're going to hit a number, right? It's like, no, we've all been successful at this, and it takes getting in your car and sitting in front of somebody.
Yep.
So
just show up. Love it. Anything else we should, did we miss anything?
No, I feel like that went pretty well. We could have kept talking, but some of these podcasts when people just talk and talk, felt like we hit it home there.
Well, then we'll wrap it up. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for the partnership, and thanks for just letting an old timer hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
Y'all give me a lot of energy, man. I really enjoy the time I've spent with everybody on your team.
No, I appreciate it. And again, thank you for the opportunity, and looking forward to many, many years of running around doing stuff together.
Amen.
So.
All right. Y'all, that is a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. More episodes coming soon, of course. Do us a favor. Go out there and give this podcast a rating. iTunes, Spotify, give us a rating. Give us a comment. The more ratings and comments that this podcast gets, then the more people that are going to hear it. Those algorithms are looking for that. So thank you all so much. I know it's annoying to get asked to do that, but just do it, please. It's like 5 seconds, and we appreciate you for it. And we love you all for listening. Spread the podcast around, spread the word, and stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. See ya. Hey, y'all, before you dial out, just a quick request. If you are listening to this podcast on iTunes, if you would give us a star rating and a comment, it would be so helpful. If you're on Spotify, if you'd follow us or whatever platform you're on, if there's a rating or a follow, please do that. What that does is it tells these algorithms to put this content in front of more people that are looking for this type of content. So if you enjoy the episode, please do that. Thank you so much for listening to Restaurant Owners Uncorked or watching on YouTube. We appreciate you. We're proud to be able to do this, and we're just going to keep putting out great content, y'all. So stay tuned. Thank you.